Hi everyone, meteorologist Steve Caparata here with another episode of Coast and Climate. Today we're going to be talking about an issue that's just a little bit different. You see a picture behind me showing a lot of litter, and we're going to talk a little bit about how litter and flooding are all kind of intertwined here in South Louisiana. To help us talk more about the subject, I bring in Marie Constantine. Good morning. Thanks for being here.
Good morning.
So you're a co-founder of this group, the Louisiana Stormwater Coalition.
Yeah.
Tell us what that group is all about.
Well, that group is all about less flooding and less litter, and we've discovered that litter clogs the system, and it gets into this old 1950s, 30s, 20s, whatever storm drain system we have, and it mingles with organics and flood-causing sediments, and it causes real problems for flooding. And not only that, but a stormwater management program will give you the money you need for infrastructure build-outs, for cleaning ditches and maintaining things, and it's a whole host of things that we put into two categories of A and B. A being dealing with litter on the streets. We call it the lipstick and the pearls, and sometimes that just means buying trucks for street sweepers, or giving money to schools to educate, those types of things that are normally done but don't have permanent funding. So this is a permanent funding vehicle. And then B we call the soul, and that would be the watershed, the sportsman's paradise. So it's dealing with litter and flood-causing sediments and organics that get into that area and ruin ecotourism, cause us to flood, and just cause all kind of problems for us.
Yeah, so you're kind of you mentioned here this idea of a utility. So let's kind of mention, this is a timely conversation because the legislature really recently passed a bill, House Bill 713, I think it is,
yes.
right? This is something your group had lobbied for a while. So now, as I understand it, local municipalities and cities will have this ability to create a stormwater utility. What is that all about?
Well, they can create a stormwater utility, meaning legally they can charge a fee and put it on a utility bill and give it the same respect that sewage currently has. Like, we wouldn't decide whether or not one year we're going to fund sewage. And because stormwater is so toxic, and because it's an eco-tourism issue, and it's a quality of life issue, and it's an economic development issue, the list goes on and on and on. And it's getting into our seafood, and it's harming us when, plastics get in there and break down, and then the next thing you know, we're eating this stuff. So it's a monster. But if a community wants to begin a program, what they do is they would hire a stormwater management consultant to look at your pain and suffering in your town. Because if you were Breaux Bridge, you may be only concerned with litter in the bayou for ecotourism and a little bit of flooding, but maybe if you're Lake Charles or Houma Thibodeau, you're not so worried about litter so much per se on the streets as you are about people losing homes. So you have a management person come in and they decide where are you suffering the most, and then you have to decide on your fee. Florida's average fee, I hear, is $8. And then you supplement the fee with grants, private funding sources, and then you hire a project manager in a big city, or a small city might just use the public works or the drainage people. And then you develop and implement your plan, and then you must include accountability, because whenever there's a fee, that money that's being spent always has to be related to a fee, unlike a tax. So a fee is a better scenario because it has a built-in accountability. And you should do annual reports, and citizens should sit on committees and look at this.
So you mentioned Florida there. So this is what's happening now in Louisiana. Potentially, it's not a unique concept.
No.
A number of states and communities have done this. But Florida, from what I've learned from you and your group, is considered one of the bigger success stories, right?
Yeah, they started 30 years ago. We actually became the 42nd state, which I'm so excited that we're not like 48 like we usually are. But 30 years ago, Florida decided to declare stormwater a utility. And then they did two other things. They created massive solid waste legislation controlling, waste handling and those kinds of things. And then thirdly, they partnered with the University of Florida and created a research facility called the Hinckley Center. And that facility does research that is intended to be, you know, something in the vernacular where the average person or the average city can use that research to help them be better. And the whole idea was, back 30 years ago, to protect and preserve tourism and to deal with the water quality issue in the Clean Water Act. That's why that got started like that. And somehow we missed the boat. 41 other states jumped on, and we're now jumped on thanks to Franklin Foyle and Jerome Zerang.
So ultimately, when we talk about this, what might get a lot of people's attention is this issue as we talk about stormwater and we talk about litter. It's all intertwined. We know everybody here in this part of the world is concerned about flooding.
Yes.
So how is all that linked? I mean, we've got a couple of videos. So this is, some people have probably seen this. It's pretty shocking, but this is out at Burden, right off Essie Lane. What are we looking at here?
We're looking at a small slice of 81 tons of litter at the Burden, and we did core samples digging down 3 feet, and we found this stuff 3 feet deep. So if you see one can on the road, we don't have the scientific data to mean that there's X number of cans in the watershed, but we do know that if you see one on the road, God knows how many are in the watershed. And because the reason we need to tighten this up, unlike Dry-as-a-Bone, Arizona, is because we are #1 in rainfall, as you know, and most often, and we are sending our litter to a watershed within 2 weeks. Whereas Arizona may not send it for 6 months. I don't know how many inches they have. And so if anybody in the country should be having really tough waste handling regulations on what the garbage trucks are doing and their contribution, because we know the Hinckley Center in a small study discovered that 50% of the problem in the neighborhood was the garbage trucks. If anybody should be beefing this stuff up, it is the state that is #1 in rainfall, sending that payload every 2 weeks.
No doubt about it. All right, so I want to roll another little video clip here. And so I would assume this is an example of what we could do with some of the dollars from a stormwater utility.
Yeah, this is these are booms, and I jokingly refer to them as Fred Flintstone's booms because they've been around for decades. They do a great job. They capture about 80%. The problem with the booms is, let me back up. They're really good for creating paddle trails, litter-free paddle trails, but the difficulty with them is that the litter is already in the watershed, the plastics are already breaking down. There's hydrodynamic separators that will grab the stuff in the outfalls before it ever gets to enter. And that's what you really want to do, is these programs will give us the permanent funding to put in the really cool stuff that's been around for decades.
And so this is one of those separators, correct?
Yes.
That we're looking at right here?
Yes, no moving parts, no electricity, water goes in and by design spins it, and when you spin water like a washing machine, you clean it, and then a vac truck comes in, pops the manhole, sucks it out. You do this every couple months, and so to speak, it's kind of automated compared to Fred Flintstone's boom. But the booms are important. I mean, we need them because you need every tool in the toolbox.
Yeah, I've seen, I think that's Carlotta Street, the one we were looking at before, closer to LSU.
Yes.
One in Bayou Fountain, right?
Yeah.
Where a lot of people like to kayak and things like that. But your group, through the years here, has done a lot of volunteer work. I don't know the hours, but you've got it documented really well. And I wanted to share some of these pictures. First off, I thought this was a pretty dramatic picture. So this is from the Capitol Lakes, right?
Yeah, this kind of says it all. This is Capitol Lake, and if you look closely, you'll see 2 sediment islands. Had we had hydrodynamic separators up in the Northdale Canal decades ago, these 2 islands, who the grounds people tell me grew in a 10-year period, would probably not have been like this. But then also there's all kind of fire hydrants, shopping carts, tires and cans. And so what's created here in some sense is an unnatural impermeable layer of just litter, sediments, and organics.
Yeah, so let's go to, this next one we'll pull up is Bayou Fountain. So we talked about Bayou Fountain a minute ago.
You won't see that today. We went in, this is the most exciting thing we've done, $1,200. The $200 was the boom to put the kayak rollover in it. We sent in 40 volunteers, and there's some pictures in here of that cleanup. And those volunteers, in under 8 hours, it was really more like 6, they went in and got all that litter out that you see. They got all the legacy litter out, and we recently took the Division of Administration folks in there to see it, and Franklin Foyle was there too, and they were absolutely stunned. I thought that the boom was going to capture 80%. I think it got 95. I don't know.
Wow.
It was almost like a nuclear winter. Like you're looking around, like I feel something's wrong. Like where's the litter?
Right. Yeah, dramatic change.
It was so exciting.
All right, so this is, I think, another great picture you shared with me. This is an example of how we all could make a difference. Simple things. So what are we looking at here? What's the issue?
This is ridiculous. If people don't realize it, if you don't bag your trash and tie it tight, and you don't close the lid and it's overflowing, I'm sorry, but you're a litter bug. And I'd be happy if we never ever said don't litter again for the next 5 years, and we could give a messaging that said, close your cart, get a bag and tie it tight. If we could say those kinds of things, because people don't know they're littering, and some of the worst littering is coming from our recycling trucks, because nothing is bagged, and we're using backloaders for recycling, which is absolutely outrageous. They have a truck called it's a drop frame truck that loads from the side, and wind protected on 3 sides, and a sealed truck so wind cyclones and wind turbulence doesn't build up and spew it out. And this is what Napa uses, and they don't have litter there. And I called the operations guy in Napa, and I asked him, I said, do you ask people to bag their trash? And he said, no. And I said, well, why not? And he said, because the trucks don't litter, and Californians hate plastic.
Yeah, and that was something, I recycle at home, and I used to kind of bag things up in paper bags or whatever else, and then, I heard that it's preferred that you not bag it here in East Baton Rouge Parish.
You can't.
Right, you're not supposed to.
It clogs the machine.
Right.
Yeah.
But then it presents its own sets of issues if you don't.
Yes.
We've got this problem to deal with. And when you and I were talking before, you really surprised me saying that a big part of this litter issue is what's coming out of the trucks.
Yes. Hinckley Center 20 years ago put it at 50% in a neighborhood. And we have some of the same trucks that were used for that study. We've got to get rid of these backloaders. We have got to get rid of these backloaders. And we have got to start phasing in the trucks that were designed to handle single-use items, and that would be the drop frame trucks.
Okay, so I want to go back to our pictures now here. Let me pull up. So these might be a little unsettling for some people, but it's the reality of this litter issue. So you and your group sometimes refer to this as death by litter for some of our wildlife and animals, right? So what are we looking at here?
Yeah, Brian Boudreau last summer, just in a 2-month period, has all kind of shots of birds dying death by litter. These are diving birds. They go down to spear a minnow with their beak, and then they come up with their little beaks tied shut with litter. And I can't even imagine how much of this we have. If he saw 6 pictures in 2 months.
Right, and we see a few of them.
We tried to save her, and we couldn't catch her.
So look, if anybody is thinking, oh, this is too much effort on my part, or it's impacting nature, our ecosystem, and our flooding, right?
Yeah.
A number of ways. It's a really important issue.
This issue is so amazing because it's a caterpillar with a whole lot of legs, and it's upside down, and the legs are squirming around begging for help. And there's so many different areas that this touches. This is huge. People don't know it's huge yet, but it's huge.
All right, so the bill has been passed. We're still waiting on the governor's signature.
Oh, right? He signed it, yeah.
He did sign it.
Yeah,
okay,
he signed
I missed that news. So, all right, so that we're ready to go forward with this.
Yeah.
I did want to ask you, though, even before this, East Baton Rouge already had the ability to create this utility, right? Without
yes, there's just because of the kind of government Baton Rouge is, and that's true of Lafayette and Terrebonne and New Orleans. They could create that utility, and so we wanted this bill to help the rest of the state, like Breaux Bridge, Mamou, Arneville. They can now do what big cities can do. It was necessary. But also, what happened in passing this is it's been challenged, and luckily, because it's 30 years now, the challengers always lose. The only time the challengers win on fighting this bill is when somebody misused the funds and bought something that they weren't supposed to.
Yeah, and I guess that means it's back to your point of keeping this transparent, make sure people know where these dollars go.
Exactly.
But we also need to make an important point here. This is up to the local communities and municipalities to sort of opt into this.
Yes.
It doesn't just mean it's a blanket thing that's going to happen everywhere.
Yeah, this is what we love about this is it's totally your choice. If you want to clean it up and you want less flooding and less litter, they go hand in hand. We'll come and we'll talk to you. We'll show you how they're hand in hand. And then you hire somebody and design your program, and you're in control of your program. You're in control of what your community looks like. If you want ecotourism and you want to throw that in there too, like I'm hoping that Arneville will adopt this and Breaux Bridge because they're destinations. And why not add one more thing of clean paddling to their destination?
So I know you and your group is made up largely of volunteers.
Yeah.
So how can people find you? And if they want to get involved, how can they do that?
Well, it's the volunteers are myself, Kelly Hurtado, who's amazing connector of people, and then Renee Verma, who comes from industry, and she's been phenomenal with making this happen with the legislation. And then Dr. Jeff Keeney is, I hope Dr. Tate realizes what a beautiful gift he is to this city. He's working on some science pieces and things like that. So any one of us. And then Brew Agency helps us a lot with our marketing. They all donate. In fact, some of the people that are helping, like Breck is amazing. Amanda over there there's nobody like her. And then Paddle BR, Nathaniel, the city, the Division of Administration, Brew, Foley Judell Law Firm helped us with our piece to get the document looking right. HDA, DEQ's been amazing to us. LSU Ag, Governor, KLB, and Garrett Graves has been a real help.
A lot of people involved. So before
Huge
I wrap
collaboration.
up with you, I wanted to pull up this burden video anymore. You've done stories with this out there before. You've been out in this, but I look at something like that and I can see where people say, man, that's hopeless. So how can we get that cleaned up?
Yes, it's easy. And we proved it. When we cleaned up the Bayou Fountain with the 40 volunteers, we created a model. Get us the equipment, and then we'll do what we call the legacy clean. And then we aren't using the Girl Scouts anymore. We use them to do the legacy clean. Then we're going to have professionals clean the equipment. And end of story, give us another spot. It's a beautiful, it's like ridiculously easy.
And that's a spot it's kind of right here in the heart of the city when you think about it. I-10 right off Essen. And a beautiful, Burton is such a beautiful spot.
Yeah.
To see that kind of on part of the property, I think is eye-opening and pretty shocking. Anything else you wanted to bring up with this issue today?
We all work for free, so you can't fire us. I think that's important. And we don't touch money. We stay clean with that, but we have a fund at BRAF, and so we bought that boom with that fund. If you want to help like that, we're happy. And, just get out. If you would tie use plastic bags that are sturdy and tie them tight and close your lid, it would help a lot. And then get involved.
All right, and it's Louisiana is it LA Stormwater? What's your website?
Louisiana Stormwater.com.
All right, I was trying to remember the website, so be sure to check them out on there as well. I think it's great information, and this is big news, this potential to establish these stormwater utilities going forward. One other thing before we wrap up, and by the way, before we wrap up, I will be back here next week with a new episode of Coast and Climate, same time next Thursday at 10. But your group, or there was a spot produced for your group that won a Telly recently. Tell us about that, and then we'll roll that to kind of wrap up.
Yeah, Brew Agency and Opera Louisiana did this piece, and the words are actually sung in Cajun French, which is so cool.
All right, so to wrap it up today, we're going to go ahead and show you that award-winning piece, and we'll see you right back here next week.
troppo, troppo,